Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you all. So today we're going to be taking another look at Live Twin Spright, which, right up there with Tri-Brigade is probably the Spright experience, Spright deck rather, that I have the least experience with. I think I've actually made a couple, or at least one more Tri-Brigade Spright video than Twin Spright, so this might be the one I'm least well-versed in, but I decided to jump right back into it for this next season here, get some gameplay in with the Live Twin Spright. One main thing that you will notice about this build that is different from the other iterations I've shown is that this build we are not playing any extra deck locks anymore. No Ibli or Scythe in this iteration. From what I could tell, I did my research on a bunch of different builds that have been doing well both on ladder and in tournaments. The Twin Spright builds seem pretty split, pretty divided in that regard, right? You'll see some decks that don't play either. Actually, it does seem like a few more don't play either than play one or the other, Ibli or Scythe, but it seems to be at least somewhat even between about a third of them don't play either, a third play Scythe, a third play Ibli, and then of course there's a couple of lists out there that play both. I was actually playing both for quite a while, but it turns out that the extra deck locks, they're definitely not bad, of course, by any stretch of the imagination, but they are a little win more, in that, when your turn goes perfectly and you're not interrupted, or you don't have to really factor in, what you're playing against, then, yeah, it's not that hard to set up an Ibli or a Scythe lock to stop the opponent from being able to summon from the extra deck. But in practice, we come up against those interruptions, more often than not, frankly. Also, the extra deck locking is very useless going second. It's really only good going first, and I'm a little bit more inclined to play stuff that's only good going first as opposed to only good going second, but I'd still prefer not to play either if at all possible. So, like I said, decided to try out a list here that does not play either Ibli or Scythe to lock out the opponent. So, in a lot of ways, this variant in particular plays a lot like Pure Spright in that we're about swarming the board and filling it with interruptions. It's just that some of those interruptions now include Ki-Sikil and or Lil-la, as well as the droplets as well. Droplet is the big addition to Twin Spright that's not in Pure Spright, because of course Droplet is a lot better in Live Twin than most other decks. Even if you have both Ki-Sikil and Lil-la on the board, you can use Droplet to get rid of one of them and then use the other's effect to bring her back. So, yeah, that allows you to, of course, not only negate monsters' effects, but also then either draw cards or pop cards, depending on what you need. And, of course, Droplet in and of itself is an excellent board breaker. Pure Spright wants Dark Ruler no more instead, because it doesn't typically have the resources to send for Droplet. But again, here not only do we have the resources, but it's actually good for us to send certain things with Droplet in this build in particular. As far as comboing with this build as opposed to, like, Pure Spright, it's not too different, actually. The main thing is that you'll want to start with, of course, one of your Live Twins, usually Lil-la, because that's the one we play more of, although in my testing session I end up drawing Ki-Sikil a lot more just by chance. But in any case, we're gonna, if, let's say you start with Lil-la, use her effect to get out Ki-Sikil Frost. Now, you don't actually want to go into your Evil Twin first, because if you do, or rather if you use the effect to summon a Live Twin from the graveyard, you can only special summon Fiend monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. So, what you want to do is actually use your Live Twins to go into a Gigatic Spright. That'll let you pull out a Spright Blue, or Jet, or whatever. That'll let you go into your Spright plays, and then once you've gotten your Elf out, you can use Elf to start bringing back your, like, Lil-la or Ki-Sikil. You want to bring back Ki-Sikil if it's turn 1. And then you can use Ki-Sikil and another random monster to make the Evil Twin Ki-Sikil. Then from there, you bring back the Lil-la, go for Lil-la, bring back Ki-Sikil, draw a card. And this is a little bit counterintuitive, but on turn 1, when you have both of these, both the Evil Twins in play, you actually want to typically link them into a second Evil Twin Ki-Sikil. The reason to do this is to put your Lil-la in the graveyard. That way Ki-Sikil can bring it back during your opponent's turn, where she can pop a card and disrupt your opponent. So that's what the Live Twin engine really adds, is mainly some more additional disruption in that regard, and some additional combo potential as well. We are also playing a single copy of Trouble Sunny, although it's very rare that you'll get this card out. This usually only comes out in like very grindy games, right? Because, of course, we can't go into Trouble Sunny if we get too locked by either the Gigantic Spright or the Spright Starter. This is very, very, very rare, but there are some times where your opponent will stop your Spright plays, but you still have Evil Twins or like Live Twins available. Then you could go for Trouble Sunny as well, but again, we're always ideally starting with our Live Twins and using them to go into the Gigantic, so that typically doesn't come up too often here. This deck is pretty notoriously infamous for being able to jam a lot of tech choices, again, much like Pure Spright. So we have our pretty standard set of triple tactic talent. I will play 3 of this card in literally any deck I can fit it in this format. That so far being this deck, Pure Spright, and then Sword Sultani, and Mathmech too, actually, to be fair. So, yeah, triple tech, of course, as good as it's ever been. We have the droplets, like I mentioned, as well. We've got a set of imperms, and then, of course, the Seas, the Ashes, the Nibiru. Literally probably for almost a year now, I've been saying, if you're playing 3 Maxx, you really probably should be playing Nibiru. I see so many people default to not playing the Nibiru, when, in my opinion, the question to ask yourself, what I always ask myself when deck building is, okay, what is the reason to not have Nibiru? Like, why would I not play Nibiru in addition to 3 Maxx? And I know a lot of people's answer is Gigantic Spright, but I don't feel that this one card, even pre-tier limits, or even pre-AA-ZEUS for that matter, I don't think that there's been enough Spright in the meta to justify not playing Nibiru. So even if Gigantic Spright exists, I still think Nibiru is a fine card. At this current time, I might actually end up changing my opinion when tier limits come out, but of course I would actually want to get some experience in that meta before I can draw any definite conclusions in that regard. And then, yeah, the extra deck, I mean, it's pretty standard, honestly pretty standard Pure Spright stuff, where, again, just playing some Evil Twin cards instead of some of the OTK and or, like, optional disruption, text that we had in our Pure Spright extra deck. So here is our current list. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I actually had quite a bit of fun playing these games, getting the games for this video. This was one of those decks where when I went into it, I was like, okay, I'm not super jazzed about playing this deck. Not that I hate it or anything, it's just there are other decks that I'm more excited to play. And I was like, you know what, we'll just rock this out real quick. But then, again, when I was actually playing these duels, I was like, wow, this actually feels like a not only competent, but equally engaging variant to Pure Spright. So, yeah, had a bit of quite a fun playing Twin Spright here. That's going to go ahead and cover the list, though. I don't think there's really anything else I needed to mention. Oh, except for the stray Ghost Ogre. I wanted to test out Ghost Ogre, and I actually wanted to play at least 2 copies, but I also didn't want to go above 40 cards, because Live Twin is one of those decks where I really value consistency, so I'm only teching a single copy, but I wanted to try out Ghost Ogre, because I haven't really teched it a whole lot since Sprites came out, so I wanted to see how much I liked it. Oh, the other thing I did also want to mention about card ratios very briefly here is Sunny Snitch. So you might be wondering, why are you playing 2 Sunny Snitch and 1 Secret Password instead of just playing 3 Sunny Snitch? And if you don't have any Secret Password, then yeah, you could just play 3 Sunny Snitch and that would be fine. However, I think 2 Sunny Snitch and 1 Secret Password is slightly better than 3 Sunny Snitch. There's very minor benefits to it. The first of which being deck thinning. The Secret Password does offer some additional deck thinning, but the main reason I actually like having this card is if you open this with Sunny Snitch, opening 2 Sunny Snitch, obviously not good because you can only activate 1 per turn. However, if you open Secret Password plus Sunny Snitch, you can still activate the Secret Password to search the other Sunny Snitch, and you might be wondering, well, what's the point of that? The point is that that allows you to check for Ash Blossom and or potentially even bait it out. So that's actually the main reason I like having the Secret Password as a one-of instead of the 3rd Sunny Snitch. It's, again, just to smooth out your draws and consistency a little bit, thinning out your deck in the process, and then again is a good way to test for Ash Blossom. So that's why I like having the 1 Secret Password in there. But alright, now that's everything I wanted to mention. So let's break the deck down card by card as we always do, and then we'll look at some gameplay. So we're playing 3 Maxx, 2 Live Twin Ki-Sikil, 3 Live Twin Lil-la, 1 live twin Ki-Sikil Frost, 3 Spright Blue, 3 Spright Jet, 1 Spright Red, 1 Spright Carrot, 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Secret Password, 2 Live Twin Sunny Snitch, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Forbidden Droplet, 2 Spright Starter, 1 Spright Smashers, and then 3 Infinite Impermanence. It's going to round out our main deck there. Now for the extra deck, we're playing 1 number 65 Djinn Buster, 1 Sky Cavalry Centurea, 2 Gigatic Spright, 1 Downerd Magician, 1 Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 1 IP Masquerena, 2 Evil Twin Ki-Sikil, 1 Evil Twin Lil-la, 2 Spright Elf, 1 Knightmare Unicorn, 1 Evil Twins Trouble Sunny, and then finally 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Alright, there is our deck list. Let's look at some games now. First duel of this video is going to be against Rika Sun Avalon, which is a fairly consistently solid, like, you could argue either way, honestly, whether it's like lower tier 3 or upper rogue, but it's pretty consistently been a part of the meta. So we're gonna take the second turn here. I've opened double Imperm and Droplet here, so going second is totally fine by me here. Well, obviously we'd like to go first, but with a hand like this, I'm relatively fine going second. So in a perfect world, I have a way to remove this low-key off the board, because it's low-key the best card in their deck, but we of course don't have the means to do that. So we're just going to have to wait for a better opportunity. Opponent's going to drop a Regulus to back up their board with an Omni Negate as well, before linking into the Sun Avalon Dryas. Effect is going to activate, and I'm going to throw down my Imperm in response to the Dryas. I think if you've got like an Imperm Revealer, this is probably the choke point you want. Again, the best choke point, as I've discussed before in previous videos, is to just nip this deck in the bud and take out the Sunseed right off the bat. If you can like banish this or really just get it off the field, then your opponent can't start their plays. But, you know, negating here I think is fine to stop them from getting the one that lets them, I think, bring stuff back from the graveyard. Well, opponents are actually about to activate it because they actually had it in hand anyway. Or no, from the deck, sorry, not the graveyard. The Sunseed Sowing, that's right. The Dryas, in my experience anyway, will usually cause them to search the Sowing to then summon the Sunseed Twin from deck, which will allow them to bring back their Loki and go for even more plays. So when this is coming down, I'm going to throw out my other Imperm here in order to negate the Sunseed Twin. I obviously don't need to negate the Dryas because I've already Impermed it, so it won't be summoning anything anyway. So I don't really know why my opponent didn't bother using Regulus here. I feel like, is this not the whole reason you made Regulus, to insulate your combo? I don't know, apparently not. I think if my opponent would have used Regulus on the first Imperm, I think that would have been enough for them to continue their plays. Now, to be fair, I actually don't know the combos of this deck very well off the top of my head, so I don't know if that's the case, but at the very least, had they negated the first Imperm, then I would have had to have used the second Imperm. I would have had to choose between the Dryas summoning something from the extra deck, or the Twin summoning the Sunseed from the graveyard. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a Sunny Snitch, even though I already have Ki-Sikil in hand, just to see if I can bait a response. No response from the opponent, so I'm going to normal summon my Lil-la here, but the opponent has Imperm. I was actually hoping / expecting Regulus to do the negating here, and the reason I was hoping for that was because I actually have the, oh, I just said it, here it is, the Forbidden Droplet. That way I could send my Sunny Snitch to the graveyard, negate the Regulus, and then continue my plays. But obviously, Imperm negating me was a bit more of a wrench in my plans here. Now, to be fair, I am decently comfortable passing here because my opponent's only going to have 2 cards in hand, and I don't really think there's a whole lot they can do with what they have on board. This is actually confirmed when they then go to the battle phase here. It looks like they're going to run their Dryas into my Lil-la. I don't really know why. I don't know if there was like a reason they would want to have a Dryas in their graveyard. Again, I'm not like super well versed with this deck. I'm not like, you know, completely familiar with all its ins and outs. So here, now, we finally have a situation, I think, where I can go ahead and go for my plays, barring some kind of disruption from my opponent's hand. But even if they do, I've got the talent as well. Well, I've got the talent either way, because my opponent's going to activate, of course, the Regulus effect, as I mentioned. I'm going to chain Forbidden Droplet, sending the Sunny Snitch and only the Sunny Snitch to only negate Regulus. This is actually something I wanted to talk about real quick in regards to Forbidden Droplet. This is something I see on ladder all the time. I feel like I see this happen more often than it doesn't, but like, my opponent will be activating Forbidden Droplet, and, you know, I can tell, because obviously I'm the one with the board state they're negating, I know how many cards they need to negate. But then I'll see my opponent just send, you know, cards to negate and reduce my whole board anyway, even when they don't need to attack over those monsters for lethal by having their attack points. If you're playing Forbidden Droplet, don't just keep sending cards because the game is asking you if you want to. You can click confirm and just be done sending cards. So, like, here, for example, like I said, I only want to send this one Sunny Snitch to get rid of the Regulus. Obviously, I want my Ki-Sikil on board to keep comboing. I want Talents in my hand because I'm actually going to get to use that because my opponent used Regulus's effect. And I want this Maxx in my hand just in case things go south. But beyond that, I don't need to negate this Dryas. It's not doing anything. So it'd just be a waste of resource to do that. Again, I wanted to pause and mention that because it's something I see all the time on ladder. People sending more stuff than they need to for Droplet to negate things unnecessarily. And I kind of suspect that a majority of the reason might be simply because the game is still prompting you with the window. But again, if you click confirm, you can just be done sending stuff for Droplet and negating things. Alright, so here I'm going to start mounting my comeback, which is not going to be too difficult. Basically, I'm just going to make a Gigantic Spright that's got 3200, use that to pull out a blue, and then a jet, and then I can starter for, I think I just end up getting red here, because why not? And then now I can use the Triple Tactics talent to take my opponent's Regulus and end the duel. Although I think I had enough damage maybe to just end the duel anyway, but yeah, we can attack directly thanks to the effect of Dryas, but that's going to go ahead and do it for that game. So, yeah, it's a pretty nice back and forth going second game with the live twin Spright there. Again, I do think my opponent could have used that Regulus better during their first, or during my first turn. I think that they should have definitely negated the first infinite impermanence. Would not have made the game as easy or clear cut for me if they had. But there is our first game there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, this next duel is going to be against a 60-card Despia Ishizu, or Ishizu branded, again, whatever you want to call it. Could really just say branded Despia at this point. I do think the majority of them by this point are on some amount of Ishizu cards and close to 60, if not 60, with grass. So I'm the luckiest player in the world, even though we're going second. My opponent is going to T-set pass like it's 2005. So I'm going to go ahead and open my Sunny Snitch here to get my evil twin, or sorry, live twin Lil-la, and then activate her effect upon summon to, of course, grab the Ki-Sikil Frost. Now, like I discussed earlier, we're actually not going to use these to go into our evil twin plays just yet. I'm going to go into Gigantic Spright first. I then am going to special summon the Jet next. And that might look a little bit weird to have done that, especially given that my opponent did actually end up having the Ash Blossom. It's like, whoa, Lex, are you a Mind Reader? Not really, actually. I wasn't even really thinking about Ash Blossom as much as I was my opponent's face down card. I actually thought it might be Infinite Impermanence. Slash was a little bit concerned it might be Imperm or something to that nature. So what my plan was here was to actually special Jet, use Jet, grab Starter, activate Starter, and then special Carrot before activating Gigantic Spright's effect for blue and then maybe red after that. But here, I end up baiting out an Ash Blossom, which is totally fine with me. I don't really know why my opponent Ash Blossomed that Jet. I think Gigantic Spright is the better thing to hit pretty much every single time. Also, to be fair, one thing I wanted to point out is that I definitely could have started with Spright Elf and then made a 3200 Gigantic Spright instead of doing it the other way around like I do here. That was just kind of a bit of a misplay on my part, to be totally honest. But to be fair, I don't think I actually had lethal here, so I don't think it really ends up mattering too terribly much. I'm just going to miss out on a little bit of damage, but again, I don't think it would actually be enough to lethal my opponent. So here I'm going to now move into my evil twin plays. I want to make Lil-la first because I want to bring back Lil-la with Ki-Sikil and destroy a card on my opponent's field. I'm just going to hit the monster because this back row hasn't proven to be a threat at all. And it actually turns out to be Brandon Red to grab back that Albaz that my opponent is going to, or that I destroyed just now, rather. I was a little afraid my opponent was going to fuse, but they ultimately didn't, which is good for me, of course, so I'll just keep smacking them directly here. And, yeah, again, I just don't think I missed out on enough damage to actually get lethal here. I could very easily be wrong in that regard, but I don't think I could have played through their monster and done that. So, as you just noticed there, our opponent's going to have a very, very scary follow-up turn with Dark Ruler No More into that Grasslix Greeter. Dark Ruler No More is one of the bigger banes of not only this deck, but a lot of Spright variants in general. However, we are in a very good position here. We have Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Smashers, and Droplet. So we have 4 cards, even though they had the Dark Ruler No More to play around their, like, 4-card hand. And indeed, we'll Ash the Grass, we'll Ghost Ogre the Albaz, and then my opponent's left with literally nothing. And that's going to be ultimately the end of the duel there. So I thought that game was a pretty good showcase of how this deck and a lot of Spright decks in general win without making big boss monsters. I see that question asked a lot, like, people will be playing Sprights and they'll be like, I don't really understand how I'm supposed to win, you know, nothing in this deck is really big or, like, inherently threatening by itself, and really, the answer is that disruption is the name of the game. We don't really win on a solid end board. We win by stopping our opponent from doing anything. And that game right there was an absolute prime example of how we're able to just grind our opponent completely out of resources and then win the duel that way. So, we do still have a couple more duels to look at, so let's go straight into this next one here. So we're going to be up against Pure Spright this time. It's a fairly standard build. It's playing the Nimbles. The most regular things were a couple of going second board breaker choices in by Geki and Change of Heart, which are not bad by any means. Just a little irregular, but in any case, I'm going to take the first turn here. We opened a Live Twin plus Spright Blue. That is perfect. Opponent's going to Imperm the Live Twin Ki-Sikil, but thankfully in this variant that doesn't matter. If you're playing a pure Live Twin deck, getting your Live Twin Impermed is very often just going to be the end of your turn. But thankfully, you know, we have the Sprights, so we don't actually necessarily need our Evil Twins in order to have good plays. Basically, if your Evil Twins get disrupted and you can't really get to them, I wouldn't really bother about it, like, or I wouldn't really bother yourself too much about it. Like, here you might have thought, like, oh, you can use Gigantic Spright to grab that Lil-la and then make your Evil Twin plays, but no, at this point I'm actually just going to make pretty much regular Pure Spright plays and not really pay much heed to my Evil Twin engine. Just because, like, yeah, ending on the Ki-Sikil is nice, the Ki-Sikil into a Lil-la, but when you could just have Elf plus IP plus Red and then Elf threatening to bring back Carrot, or the Maxx that's in your hand if it gets called by it, that just ends up being a lot cleaner in my opinion. So, opponent's going to normal summon their Nimble Beaver. I'm going to chain the Maxx's effect. Opponent's going to Spright Starter, not the call by I was expecting, but that's fine. Either way, the Maxx is going to end up resolving. Getting the Pixies is a very interesting grab here, and I'm going to use the Elf upon resolution of this chain to bring back the Carrot. Opponent's got a red and then a blue of their own, giving it a couple more draws off the Maxx. I'm going to Ash Blossom the Spright Blue here. The main reason I'm doing this now is because I know I just said in the last duel that I like to save the Ash Blossom for the Gigantic, but I have the IP into Knightmare Unicorn to get rid of the Gigantic here before it can use its effect. So I'm going to go ahead and Ash Blossom that blue, so that way they can't get Jet and then get Smashers. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go into my Knightmare Unicorn, giving up on the Carrot because I don't foresee myself really needing it, honestly. And then, yeah, like I said, I'm going to target the Gigantic Spright to put back in that back in the deck. As expected, my opponent's going to respond with Red. I'm going to respond with my own Red in turn to not only negate, but also destroy their Spright Red, because now they don't have, or they only have the one Spright Pixies on the field. Unfortunately for me, their last card actually ended up being Spright Carrot, so they get to special that and then go for their Gigantic Spright, which they get to use the effect of because they haven't actually activated its effect yet. Oops, sorry, that's an alarm going off in my pocket. Let me go ahead and silence that there. So yeah, that's still going to ultimately be the end of my opponent there because, as you can see, even though they were able to successfully go into Gigantic Spright and then summon the Swap Frog, I was just far too ahead at that point. Not necessarily in board save, but definitely in hand advantage. And even though I wasn't ahead on the board and I was out of disruptions, there was no way my opponent was going to be able to assemble a board that could actually OTK me there. I'm trying to think if they could have done it if they played Daigusto Phoenix, but I don't even think Daigusto Phoenix would do it there. They'd also already burned through a lot of their resources as well, is the other thing to consider there. So, yeah, my opponent was just too far behind at that point to catch up. Mostly thanks to Maxx, but also, I guess not even mostly thanks to Maxx. It really was Maxx working in tandem with our on-board negations there. Okay, yeah, I do have one more duel to take a look at, so let's go straight into it. And our final duel for this video is going to be Shizu Chaos, which is that good old Necroface Mill deck. I'm not gonna lie, I won't be sad to see this one go. I wasn't particularly invested in it. I mean, I didn't invest in it at all. I didn't really play the deck because it didn't particularly interest me. I don't know. Yeah, it's just not really a deck I was, like, super geeked about playing. In any case, we're going to take the first turn here and start with some pretty standard plays. Taking our live twins into the Gigantic Spright. We actually open with both blue and jet, so I can just pull a red directly out from my deck and then have a Carrot and a Smashers in addition to 2 infinite Impermanence. So we have a lot of disruption here. Of course, the Spright Elf is coming back here as well. I'm going to bring back the Ki-Sikil just to, like, have a monster to make the IP. Or, no, sorry, to make the, of course, the Evil Twin Ki-Sikil. I thought I was playing pure Spright, even though I had just said live twin Ki-Sikil and thought I was making an IP Masquerena there for some reason. But, nope, going to get our Evil Twin Disruption Engine sort of set up. Here we are going to end up making this instead of an IP Masquerena, but when you think about the fact that IP's pretty much always going for Knightmare Unicorn or Underworld Goddess to disrupt, and the fact that we get disruption anyway in the form of the Lil-la coming back, I think this is fine. So, opponent's turns coming up here. They start with an Allure. I actually thought they were a branded Despia variant for a moment, until of course they send the Thunder Dragon Roar, getting the Thunder Dragon Dark. I'm actually going to blow this up with the Lil-la to make it a little bit more difficult for them to get Colossus, even though they get to, of course, add a Thunder Dragon monster due to the Thunder Dragon Dark's effect. In hindsight, looking at that play, I think maybe I should have just summoned the Jet with Elf and just banished it, or waited for the Colossus to come out and then banish it with the Smashers instead, now that I'm really looking back and thinking on that there. I'm going to bring back Jet so that way I can get back Starter. I've mentioned this quite a few times lately when discussing Spright, but if you're going to Elf during your opponent's turn to get back either Blue or Jet, this can be a little bit hand dependent, but the vast majority of the time I'll just get Jet anyway, and I see a lot of people that I'm playing against getting Blue back, and they're searching for Jet. Now, I don't know about you all, but I've had times where I've done that, and then I don't have another level 2 monster, and the Jet ends up being kind of useless, where a Spright Starter would have actually allowed me to have plays there. So that's my general advice, is just if it doesn't, if you don't have any other level 2 monsters in hand, or honestly, even if you do, it just tends to be better to get back Jet with Elf to search Starter, rather than getting Blue back to search a random Spright monster, usually a Jet. But opponent's going to get to left arm offering for that grass looks greener. To be fair, that E-Telly, maybe I shouldn't have responded to it. I don't know, one of the main reasons I want to go back and watch this game was to see if I could have better used my responses at any given point. So I'm actually looking at already, yes, in 2 instances, Ki-Sikil to bring back Lil-la to blow up Thunder Dragon Dark was definitely not necessary, because I ended up using Smashers to banish Colossus anyway, and I could have just done that. On top of that, that E-Telly, in retrospect, was pretty obvious bait, and I maybe should have just saved my Carrot as well. Of course, that is also a bit of hindsight there too, because of course I didn't know that my opponent had Left Arm Offering in their hand. Had I known that, then of course Left Arm Offering is like the best spell card you could possibly ever negate in the game, because of the cost of banishing the entire hand there. So, yeah, I don't know. I definitely could have played this a little bit better, like I said, but the other thing too, honestly, about trying to play against these Shizu Chaos decks is, like, they have so much gas. It's so hard to know exactly when to mill. And it's funny, I don't know, this game I would consider a pretty good learning experience, except that Necroface is about to go to 2 in a couple of days, and this knowledge isn't really going to do me too much good moving forward, so I don't know. I still got a red negation here. At this point, I pretty much knew I was going to probably just lose anyway, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'll stop a Necroface mill, and then maybe I won't get decked out. I don't know. It was definitely wishful thinking at that point, to say the actual literal least there. Alright, here comes the Fairy Tale Snow. I'm surprised my opponent didn't use Fairy Tale Snow at any point to flip my red face down, but whatever. Like I said, I'll stop one of these mills with the Spright Red. I'm just going to throw this in fast forward here, because really not a whole lot more is going to happen at this point. My opponent's not going to be able to deck me out, but I can still make a Chegang that's got like 7,000 attack points, so that's still obviously not going to be good for me at all. And then, yeah, with the Chaos Ruler coming back, it's just so easy for my opponent to finish me off now. Yep, here's the battle phase. They're just going to smack into me for almost lethal in one blow. Only 100 points off, but the Chaos Ruler is going to then shore things up. So, yeah, there's that duel. You know, like I said, looking back now, yes, I absolutely could have used my disruption at better and or more thoughtful points. I think evaluating that even in the moment I could have done that, you know, even without having the bias of knowing that my opponent was going to play left arm offering. But like I said, a lot of good this knowledge is going to do when Necroface is going to 2 in just a couple of days anyway. So that's going to do it for these games. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I, of course, greatly appreciate it. Now let's move on to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.